Today, we're turning our analytical lens toward a specific piece of language instruction, the English for Travel module presented by Mary Walker and Ryan Carter. This material, well, it presents itself as a practical toolkit. It's a collection of fixed, high-utility phrases for, high-stress environments like airports and hotels. So the central question we're really digging into is one of pedagogy and, I think, psychology. Does giving travelers a rigid script empower them, or does it just create a false sense of security that shatters the moment an interaction deviates from that script? I'm firmly in the first camp. I believe this source material provides a vital, functional toolkit that prioritizes a successful transaction and anxiety reduction over any kind of grammatical nuance.
And I come at it from a completely different angle. I believe the material promotes what I'd call a vending machine view of human interaction. It treats language like this simple input-output mechanism that frankly leaves the learner profoundly vulnerable the moment a native speaker goes off script. It favors superficial output over genuine comprehension, and that's a dangerous trade-off.
I appreciate that distinction. I think that really tees up the whole discussion. So let's look at this confidence-first approach that Mary Walker establishes right at the start. She asks a very poignant question. She says, have you ever traveled to another country and felt nervous? Maybe you knew some words, but you weren't sure what to say. That, right there, is the core problem. The material isn't trying to teach you the history of the language. It's trying to lower your heart rate. When Walker introduces a phrase like, here is my passport, or I have a reservation, she's not just teaching vocabulary, she's providing psychological anchors. In a moment of stress, you're standing at a border control desk or a busy hotel reception, you just don't have the cognitive bandwidth to be conjugating verbs. You need a pre-packaged block of language you can hand over. Walker says the goal is simple, practical, and real. And by stripping away the complicated grammar, the material ensures the traveler can function immediately. It's all about momentum.
I see why you prioritize the psychological aspect. But I think that confidence-first approach is exactly where the trap lies. I call this the fragility of scripts. Yes, there's utility in knowing how to say, I have a reservation, but the material presents these interactions as totally binary, almost robotic exchanges. It curates a reality where the world just happens to play along with the learner's script. I mean, consider the airport example. Ryan Carter acts out the staff member saying, may I see your passport? And the learner responds, here is my passport. It's perfect, it's seamless, but it's also a fantasy. By focusing entirely on the learner's output, drilling them on, I would like the chicken, the material completely neglects the complexity of the input. What happens when the waiter doesn't just say, okay? What happens when they ask a follow-up question about side dishes or allergies?
The learner has been handed a script for a play where the other actors, well, they haven't read their lines. They're left stranded in a conversation they started but absolutely cannot finish.
That's a fair concern, but I think you're underestimating the value of managing these high-stakes environments, specifically in the airport section. Let's look at that. In a security environment, ambiguity is the enemy. You don't want a creative conversation with a border agent, you want a transaction. The source prescribes a very specific exchange. Staff asks, do you have any luggage to check in? Traveler replies, yes, I have one suitcase. Or, no, I only have a carry-on. This is the ideal model precisely because it minimizes friction. Those two options cover the vast majority of use cases. By giving the learner these binary options, the material allows them to, as Walker puts it, move around with confidence. If you try to teach a beginner to improvise in that kind of environment, you are just inviting disaster. The script is a safety rail.
But safety rails are only useful if the path doesn't suddenly change. You call it minimizing friction, I call it a total lack of contingency. The source material presents the staff tone as merely inquiring, polite, standard. But we all know airport travel is rarely that sterile. What about the variables? What about questions about liquids or batteries or whether you packed your own bag? If a traveler only knows the script, here is my passport and yes, one suitcase, they're being conditioned to expect a perfectly smooth path. If an official asks, did you pack this bag yourself? A question that is absolutely not in the script, the traveler is going to panic. And here's the darker side of your psychological anchor. It creates a facade of fluency. If I walk up to an agent and confidently deliver a perfectly pronounced sentence, that agent assumes I speak some English. They'll then speak back to me at a normal speed.
When I suddenly freeze because I've run out of script, that silence, it looks suspicious.
The script creates an expectation of competence that the learner just can't back up.
I think you're assuming the worst-case scenario. Whereas the material is simply playing the odds. Most interactions are standard. But okay, let's move to the transactional versus the social aspect in the hotel and restaurant sections, because I think the utility there is undeniable. Walker suggests the phrase, "Could you help me with my bags?" This is a brilliant tool. It blends pure utility with social grace. She even calls it very polite and professional. It lets the learner access a service without sounding demanding. And then, look at the restaurant section. "I would like the chicken, please." You might call that simplistic, but I call it the ultimate utilitarian phrase. It secures sustenance, it bypasses the need to navigate a complex menu, and maybe most importantly, the exit strategy. "Can I have the bill, please?" That is the most critical phrase to prevent that awkward lingering. These are tools that solve immediate, real social problems.
Okay, I would like the chicken is fine. It's safe, it's a bit dull, but it works. My major issue, though, is with the recommendation strategy that follows it. Ryan Carter suggests the phrase, "What do you recommend?" On the surface, this sounds proactive. It makes the learner sound engaged. But pedagogically, it's a trap. Think about it. "I would like the chicken" is a closed loop. You say it, you get chicken. "What do you recommend?" is a wide open door. You are inviting a waiter to speak freely, probably at speed, about the catch of the day, or the seasonal garnish, or the chef's special sauce. The source material does not teach the listening comprehension required to understand that answer. You're setting the learner up to ask a question they cannot possibly understand the answer to, and that just creates an embarrassing situation where the waiter gives this passionate description and the learner just stares blankly and says, "I would like the chicken."
That is a humorous image, but I'd argue that even if they don't catch every word, the interaction itself builds a bridge. But I want to pivot to where I think the material actually addresses your concern about comprehension best, the navigation section. This is where the script sort of acknowledges its own limitations. Ryan Carter introduces the phrase, "Can you show me on the map?" I would argue this is the single most valuable phrase in the entire text. It is the bridge between language and reality. It mitigates that listening comprehension deficit you're so worried about by forcing the interaction into a visual medium. It doesn't matter if the local speaks fast, if they point to a spot on a screen, communication is successful.
Okay, I will concede that point. "Can you show me on the map?" is a clever workaround. It admits defeat linguistically to win logically. I'll give you that one. However, look at the phrase that comes right before it. "How do I get to the train station?" This brings us right back to the input problem. Asking, "How do I get to?" is incredibly easy to say. A beginner can memorize that in 2 minutes. But understanding the answer, go down this street, turn left at the post office, not the first left, the second one, that is incredibly difficult spatial and linguistic processing. So by prioritizing the ability to ask over the ability to understand, the material gives the learner a tool they can't actually use effectively without that map phrase as a backup. It basically proves the limitations of the whole verbal script approach.
But that's why they include, "Is it far from here?" That's a binary question, yes or no. It's a logistical question that helps the traveler make safety and time management decisions. Is it far? Yes. Okay, I'll take a taxi. No. Okay, I can walk. The material gives you a mix of open and closed questions to sort of triangulate your position. And this leads to the method of delivery, which I know you're skeptical of, the repeat after us section. Walker and Carter spend a good portion of the time just drilling these lines. Travel power sentences, they call them. "I have a reservation. How do I get there?" You might call it rote, but I call it building muscle memory. In a high-stress environment, when you're tired, jet-lagged, maybe lost, you do not want to be constructing sentences from scratch. You don't want to be thinking about subject-verb agreement. You want to reflexively produce, "How do I get there?" like a physical reaction. This method fulfills the source's promise to upgrade your life. By reducing the cognitive load of travel, it frees up your brain to focus on your surroundings, not on your grammar.
Muscle memory is a very generous term for what is essentially parroting. My concern is that this just leads to stagnation. If you rely on rote memorization of "I have a reservation," you aren't engaging in true language acquisition. You're just pressing buttons on its soundboard. Look, the host claimed this makes travel easier, and maybe it does in a frictionless vacuum, but it treats the destination like a backdrop, a stage set, rather than an immersive experience. If you only interact via these pre-approved scripts, you are keeping yourself in a tourist bubble. You are shielded from the messy, beautiful reality of a language. You aren't learning English. You are learning to perform a very specific role in a very specific play. And the moment the stage manager changes the set or an actor improvises, the whole performance just collapses.
But isn't the performance the point for a beginner? We're not talking about becoming fluent poets here. We are talking about getting from the airport to the hotel without a panic attack. The source material successfully identifies the pain points of travel, the nervousness, the essential needs, and provides a surgical, effective solution. By mastering these specific interactions, passport, chicken, bill, the learner gains the momentum they need to maybe attempt more complex communication later on. You have to survive the airport to learn the language later.
Survival is a very low bar for upgrading your life. While functional, I maintain that this material offers a survival guide, not a communication tool. The reliance on fixed scripts risks failure when the messy reality of travel refuses to follow that script. It promises confidence, but what it delivers is a script that is only as strong as the other person's willingness to follow along.
I think we can find some common ground on the map technique, though.
Absolutely. "Can you show me on the map" represents the smartest intersection of language and practical problem solving in the whole text. It acknowledges the learner's limits while still solving the immediate problem.
And that really is the crux of it, isn't it? Is your goal immediate utility, getting the chicken, finding the hotel, or is it deep comprehension? The Walker and Carter material clearly, and I think unapologetically, sides with utility. Whether that's enough for you as the listener really depends on what kind of traveler you want to be. That brings us to the end of this debate. We hope this discussion has illuminated some of the mechanics behind the phrases you might take for granted.
And perhaps encouraged you to learn a little more than just the script before you board that plane.
Thank you for joining us.